Hello, everybody. First and foremost, I'd like to welcome all of you. I also would like to welcome all our dear students in all grades, and more precisely, our students in grade 12, to this educational program, which is going to be based on Over to You textbook series grade 12. Today, I'm going to deal with grammar. Before the break, I'd like you to get ready. So prepare yourselves. I will be more than happy to meet you after the break. Welcome back, dear students. As I said 1 minute ago, I'm going to deal with grammar. Okay? Now, before dealing with the grammar, which is in Module 1, Unit 2, I'm going to deal with something very important, which is the type of questions that you are going to encounter in your quizzes as well as in your official exams. In the grammar task, you are going to deal with 3 kinds of questions. Number 1 is multiple choice. Number 2 is transformation, which means do as required or do as shown, and correcting the mistakes. Let's move to our core today, which is Module 1, Unit 2. The grammar that you are going to deal with now is past perfect simple. Okay? I always like to start my grammar points by referring to context. This text is familiar to you. It's on page 19, in which the writer tried to narrate some events using 2 kinds of tenses, which are the simple past and the past perfect. Let's start by the simple past. If you focus here, you will find the verb was, which is the past simple of be, then the verb used, which is a regular verb of the verb use. Then we have an irregular verb here in the past heard. We have another regular verb, deteriorate in the past, deteriorated. And the verb, another irregular verb, began in the past. The same thing is going to be done for the second type of tense, which is the past perfect. Focus here. It's the same sentence here. It's just for you to be clearer. By the end of 1854, a quarter of the population of Ireland had left for the United States. So you notice the difference between simple past and this form. Had plus the verb, verbal left. There's another example here in this paragraph, which is this one. These workers had come to seek better and help with the development of Kuwait. Now let's move to focus on these 2 examples. By the end of 1854, and these workers had come. These are the forms, had plus past participle, and had plus past participle. This is the form of the verb, the past perfect, simple, had plus past participle. Let's practice a little bit. Travel, let's put travel in the past perfect. So we have to use had traveled. Then we have the verb go. So it's had gone. Very good. So we have had plus the past participle of the verb go. Then we have the verb buy in the past perfect. So we have to stick to the rule here. Had plus the past participle of buy. Now let's talk about the use after talking about the form. We use the past perfect simple to express something, which is to clarify which of 2 actions happened first. So it connotes here in this sentence that we have 2 actions, 1 action happening before another action. This is an example. Irish people emigrated because so many had died of starvation. Let's use this timeline. Here I define the present. This is the future. So Irish people emigrated. We have the verb to emigrate and the verb to die. Which one happened before the other? Of course, the nearest one to the present is the past simple, which is the verb emigrate. And this must be put in the past perfect. Okay? So the sentence, people died, and as a result, others emigrated. Which one happening before the other? Die is number one, and as a result, people emigrated. So by 1854, a quarter of the population of Ireland had emigrated to America. That means they emigrated before 1854. There's another use for the past perfect. It is used to talk about the situation, a state, a feeling, or action in the past. Let's focus on the following example. Hussein felt nervous because he had never flown before. Here we have two verbs. Hussein was nervous at some point in the past. The reason he was nervous was that he had not flown before this point in time. Let's analyze it more. So here is the present, here is the future. They have nothing to do with our past. There's something that took place here in the past, which is feeling nervous, and the other action had taken place before it at any time here. So the fact on not flying took place before the feeling of nervousness. Now, after explaining the use of the past perfect, let's move to practice. In your student's book, on page 20, you have exercise number 2, which says, discuss the difference in meaning between these pairs of sentences. Sentence number A, 1. In 1854, a quarter of the population of Ireland emigrated to America. Okay, so here we have the use of the verb emigrate in the simple past. B, A2. By 1854, a quarter of the population of Ireland had emigrated to America. Why is this difference between them? Because in the first sentence we have 1854, which is a point in time, very precise point in time. And here we have by 1854, so there is an action before another action. Now let's move to B1. Irish people emigrated because so many were dying of starvation. Here we notice the use of two verbs in the simple past. Whereas in sentence number 2, Irish people emigrated because so many had died of starvation. There are here two actions that took place in the past, one before the other. Here we have an exercise on page 20. Choose the correct form of the verbs in the sentences below. By the end of their holiday, Jabir and Yasser, and we have two options here, visited or had visited many interesting places. Think about the answer, please. By the end of their holiday. So your answer should be had visited. Why? Because here we have the end of the holiday in a precise time in the past, okay, preceded by an action which took place in the past perfect, which is had visited. Sentence number B, he suddenly noticed that his brother, the first verb is ate, the second is had eaten, all the food in the house. Think about it and suggest an answer. Excellent, very good. This is your answer. Had eaten. Why? Again, to our timeline, there's somebody who noticed something in the past, preceded by an action, which is the action of eating. C. By 2 o'clock, we have two options, had finished my English homework. Which one is correct? Okay, this is your answer. So you notice here that our answer is had finished. Why? Because we have helping words which are by 2 o'clock. Now let's move to exercise number D. The expedition required meticulous planning before you have to choose left or had left. If you have 2 actions, of course, your answer is clear. So we have only 1 action. The expedition required meticulous planning before they left. Okay, now let's move to practice number 2. Again, it's about the past perfect, simple. On page 20, exercise number 3, it says, complete the short text with the correct form of the past simple and past perfect form of the verbs in brackets. Now you have to concentrate more because you are required to give either this or that, simple past or past perfect. On April 18th, 1906, an enormous earthquake, we have a verb, hit, the Californian city of San Francisco. If you focus here on this sentence, you will find that these are the helping words on April 18th, 1906, which is a very precise point in time. So your choice or your answer must be hit, simple past. Although it, verb last, only 6 seconds, it, another verb, be, the worst disaster in the history of the United States. As you can see here, we don't have sequence of verbs, so we have to use the simple past, lasted and was. By the end of that minute, most of the city's buildings and transport systems, verb be obliterated, and thousands of families, verb became refugees. If you focus here, we have by the end of that minute. So you are facing 2 occasions in the past. A minute which finished, and there had been other actions or events that had taken place before. So your answer should be had been obliterated. And because we have the word and, we have to keep to the parallelism of the sentence. So we have to stick to the same tense, which is had become. Later studies, so after the earthquake, there were studies which tried to analyze the event. Later studies show that the ground split open over than 330 kilometers along the San Andreas Rift. Later studies, so it's simple past, showed that the ground, of course, had taken place before the studies showed. So the answer is had split. Open for more than 430 kilometers along the San Andreas Rift. The land to the east of the rift, verb to move, 7 meters to the south. Your answer must be had moved, because the studies were talking about something that had taken place before this time. Okay? 7 meters to the south. That move killed 3,000 people, and we have a comma here, which is very important, injure 225,000 others, and had displaced many more. Okay? Again, we are talking about the event that had taken place before the studies. So your answer should be had killed, and because we have a comma which is called a series comma, we have to stick to the same tense. So the verb injure should be had injured or injured. Okay, now you notice in this task that you have dealt with 2 types of tenses, the simple past and the past perfect. Now let's move to practice number 3. In your student's book on page 20, you have exercise number 4 that says, think of an explanation for these situations. Your explanation should include the words in brackets and a verb in the past perfect. Number A, Hussein felt perturbed when he arrived at the airport. So if you ask yourselves, why did Hussein feel perturbed when he arrived at the airport? Your answer should be because he had never flown before. So we have here to use the past perfect. Sentence number B, Bushra didn't feel very confident about her driving test. Why? If you ask yourself, why didn't she feel very confident? The answer should be because she had failed twice. So her past experience influenced her psychological situation. Sentence number C, Nabil didn't recognize his friend Jabir. So if you ask yourselves, why didn't Nabil recognize his friend Jabir? The answer is simply because he hadn't seen him for 10 years. These are the explanation for the sentences. Number D, Faisal found it difficult to get up this morning. Again, if you ask yourselves, why did Faisal find it difficult to get up this morning? The answer should be he had worked late the night before. He had worked late the night before. Sentence number E, when Layla read the letter, she couldn't stop smiling. Why? The answer is because she had passed her exam, so she was happy. Sentence F, Yasser couldn't contact his brother, Abdul Hamid. Why? Why couldn't he contact his brother, Abdul Hamid? Because he had switched his phone off. Now let's move to practice number 4. On page 13 of your workbook, you have exercise number 5. Using the past simple or the past perfect form of the verbs in brackets, complete the story of a family who left England to live in Kuwait. In 1975, my family, verb to emigrate, from England by air. So here is clear that this person or the author is speaking about something that took place in the past. So it's emigrated. 8 hours later, we, verb to arrive, in Kuwait. Again, there's a flow of sequence events, so the simple past is also here used. My mother, B, worried about the plane journey as she is scared of flying. So before moving, before emigrating, before arriving, there's an event that had taken place, which is had been worried before leaving. But there be no turbulence, and she slept during the trip, again, before arriving to Kuwait. So you have to use the verb was here, no disturbance, and she slept during the trip. In Kuwait, my family, verb to reside, in a lovely apartment, which was verb to provide by my father's new job. And here you have to give due care to the active and the passive form of the verbs. So in Kuwait, my family resided in a lovely apartment, which was provided by my father's new job. My father, verb to run, an engineering firm that verb to build skyscrapers. This author is narrating again. So it's the verb run in the past. And of course, the same tense is going to be used here. We go to an international school and verb to attend a school with children from all over the world. Again, the author is narrating something that took place in the past. So we have to use the verb went and the verb attended. At first, it, verb to be, difficult getting used to being away from home. But we all work hard to fit in and the locals be very friendly. The person is talking about their experience in Kuwait in a very precise time in the past, so we have to take care here. Our answer is, at first, it was difficult getting used to being away from home, but, and here we have a compound sentence in which you have to stick to the same tense here. So if we use the verb was in the past, the verb work must be also put in the simple past. So the sentence will look like this. At first, it was difficult getting used to being away from home, but we all worked hard to fit in and, which is extremely important here, the locals. The and here is here to guarantee the parallelism of the sentence, so we have to stick to the same tense. So verb to be must be in the past, in the plural, because we are talking about the locals. We carry on our example. In 1986, so there is a point in time, my family and I, verb to return, to England. So they finished their experience from Kuwait and they returned to England. But I, verb to love, my time in Kuwait. Okay? Think about the verb here. We have in 1986, which is extremely important. Very good. We use the simple past here. We returned to England, but I love. I had loved my time in Kuwait because this person had spent some time in Kuwait before going back to England. The last sentence, I learned so much about an interesting culture. Of course, he or she is speaking about the Kuwaiti culture. And verb make, so many good friends. Make sure that this person now is or she is in England. So he or she is talking about something that had taken place in the past before leaving Kuwait. I, verb to learn, so much about an interesting culture. It's clear that this author is talking about the Kuwaiti culture. And verb make, so many good friends. So he or she is talking about an experience that had taken place before leaving Kuwait to England again. Think about it a little bit. I, verb to learn. Very good. It's I had learned so much about an interesting culture, and, which is extremely important again here, to guarantee this parallelism that we have already talked about, because the answer is had made or made so many good friends. Of course, he is speaking about the experience that had taken place in Kuwait before leaving England. At this point, our lesson is over. I hope that you find it enjoyable. Thank you for watching.